Since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, our daily lives have been adjusted significantly, including how we grieve the loss of a loved one. Today, I'm going to be talking a bit about how to look after yourself and your well-being if you have experienced a bereavement during COVID-19. Bereavement, which is a difficult experience under any situation, is now happening under very challenging circumstances during this pandemic. We've had to adapt the more traditional ways we might express our grief, which is why coping with bereavement at the minute is very, very different to under normal circumstances. Shielding or social distancing might also make it harder to process loss and may cause feelings of isolation. There are also a number of practical implications too. It's currently not possible to have large funerals or in some cases even be in the presence of those we wish to offer our condolences. This can be really challenging. What we can do though is support ourselves in different ways, and this is what I'll be talking a bit more about during this video. Research has shown us a number of key issues experienced by people during periods of grieving, especially during this time. These include feeling lonely, feeling shocked or disbelieving the situation to be true, feeling fatigued, feeling exhausted, also feeling lost or disorganised, a bit like being unable to think or focus our attention. And finally, experiencing grief waves, so periods of feeling highly emotional. Now, following a death, it's very common for emotions to rapidly change. You could almost think of this a bit like a rainstorm, how the rain comes and goes, and this in itself and these emotions can feel really confusing. Now, these are just a few, but all are completely normal human responses to bereavement. Given these very common responses, together, let's now think about what you can do to look after yourself and your well-being during this process. Tip 1. Keep connected and talk about your emotions. Going back to the reactions to bereavement, remember that emotions after a death or a loss can be intense and very unpredictable, those grief waves that I mentioned. Understandably, it's unrealistic to expect yourself to feel in control all of the time. Many people find it a helpful outlet to talk about how they're feeling with others, friends, family, or just a trusted person. This can be comforting and allows a space to feel and express how you're feeling in that moment in time, rather than trying to bottle up those emotions. Now, during the coronavirus outbreak, other people might be experiencing losses and difficulties, and being able to share your experiences and keeping that consistent communication with others, this can make you feel less burdened and less alone during this time. Now, although at the moment there are measures in place which make it more difficult to see people in person, there are still a number of ways to reach out, including telephone calls, text messaging, video calls, and even social media platforms. If you do feel as though it's too overwhelming talking to people you know that you don't have to be alone in grief and you can contact telephone helplines. A really great one is the Cruise Bereavement Care Helpline, which is staffed by trained bereavement volunteers who can offer emotional support to anyone affected by bereavement. You should see the details for this service on the screen now. Tip 2. Maintain a daily routine. Where possible, try to keep to a regular routine of getting up and getting dressed and eating meals at the usual time, whether you're on your own or living as part of a family. This structure will help, even if only a little. How routine also helps is that it acts as our anchor by keeping us grounded. This can help us to maintain a sense of control, especially if you're feeling lost or disorganised in your thoughts at this time. Perhaps write your daily structure out in a list format and tick each task off once it's completed, again to reinforce that positive structure. You might find that on some days you feel like you have more energy and the grief isn't as overwhelming, and this is a completely normal aspect of the grieving process. Maybe use these days to add a light activity into your daily routine if you feel able to. One example could be doing an at-home exercise routine or getting outdoors for a brisk walk if you feel like you can. Likewise, if you find yourself struggling, some days more than others. It's also normal and again part of that grieving process. So try not to feel guilty or angry with yourself. We'll now look at how to look after yourself during these more overwhelming days. Tip 3. Pay attention to your basic needs. It's so important that you look after yourself and ensure that your body is getting rest, especially if you're feeling fatigued or exhausted. Now, this might sound obvious, but during times like this, it can feel easier to withdraw from ourselves or forget about our basic needs. Emotional strain can make you feel very tired and lethargic, but it can also stop you from sleeping. Now, a good night's sleep adds many benefits to health and well-being, including reducing stress and low mood, improving memory, and also allowing the body to repair itself. Other simple things are equally as important, like making sure you're eating and you're keeping hydrated. It could help to put an hourly reminder on your phone to grab a glass of water, or check or remind yourself to have a quick snack. Similarly, not spending too much time sedentary where possible, so getting up every hour, whether that's just to stand up and do a quick stretch or do a lap around the room that you're in. Those kind of small things just to keep our body moving. Those days where it feels too much to even get out of bed or leave the house, just opening the curtains and the window can be greatly beneficial. And this is because exposure to natural light is really important to support our health and to support our well-being. Tip 4. Write to your loved one. Writing to your loved one can be a very powerful way to address the grief and healing after loss. Take time out and try sitting down with a pen and paper or on your computer or even on your phone and write down your thoughts about your loved one. This can be incredibly helpful if the loss has come as a shock. For example, listing certain things you miss about a loved one can really help you to identify your sadness and grief. Identifying your emotions and thoughts this way and writing them down provides structure to the feeling of overwhelm, and it helps the mind process these emotions, which in turn will support improvement of your emotional and your physical well-being. Now, keep in mind that this activity is to remember, to honour and miss the loved one in a healthy way. Similarly to talking about how you're feeling with others, this can be another helpful outlet to release your emotions. Now, if you find that your feelings are becoming overwhelming as you're completing this exercise, please do reach out to a family member, a friend, or even a professional for some more support at this time. The Bromley Bereavement Service is a local service offering free telephone and face-to-face counselling if you do feel like you need some more support to channel your emotions during this time. You can find the details of how to access this service on the screen now. Through this video, we've spoken about some ways that you can look after your well-being if you have been bereaved during this COVID pandemic. We've spoken about the benefits of keeping connected and talking about our feelings, maintaining a routine. We've spoken about how to pay attention to your basic needs, and finally, how you can helpfully outlet your emotions. Now, along with this video will be a support pack focused on managing your well-being if you have been bereaved. This pack contains information of a number of different support services offering emotional support, but it also contains information around support for navigating the more practical aspects associated with the bereavement too. So please do take some time out to have a look through that pack. We would also love to hear from you and how you have found these tips. You can reach us on Twitter. Our handle is @BromleyWell, and perhaps send us a tweet with your favourite tip and hashtag #HelpAtHome to get involved. Thank you.